The massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Conservation Council hummed with quiet activity. President Velthar floated behind his curved desk, his 8 tentacles moving gracefully as he sorted through the annual planetary classification reports. For 300 years, he had overseen these surveys, and most planets fell into predictable categories. Desert worlds, ice worlds, jungle planets, all fairly standard stuff. But today's file made him pause. "Computer, display Earth survey data," he commanded, his voice creating ripples in the translation field around him. The holographic display materialized, showing a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. Velthar's primary. I focused on the classification tags floating around the image. His other 7 eyes widened in confusion. Paradise world, abundant water and resources, death trap, extreme weather, hazards, peaceful civilization, no major conflicts, warrior planet, highly aggressive species garden, world beautiful landscapes, nightmare realm, dangerous wildlife. This cannot be correct, Velthar muttered, his tentacles twitching with puzzlement. Dr. Kyra Thess glided over in her mobility pod, her crystalline body reflecting the chamber's soft lights. As the council's chief xenobiologist, she had seen many strange reports, but nothing like this. "Sir, I've been reviewing the Earth file all morning. We have 12 different survey teams, and they might as well be describing 12 different planets." Velthar's main tentacle reached out to scroll through the data. "Show me Team Alpha's report." The display changed to show images of rolling green hills, clear blue skies, and gentle streams. The report text appeared. Species appears peaceful. Observed subjects engaging in recreational activities. Weather conditions optimal. Recommend classification as Paradise World. "Now, show me Team Gamma's report." The screen flickered to show massive spinning storms, violent winds, bending trees to breaking points, and torrential rain. The text read, "Survived planetary assault by extreme weather system. Local species somehow unaffected. Recommend immediate hazard classification. Request emergency evacuation." Dr. Thess floated closer. Team Alpha visited during Earth's spring season. Team Gamma arrived during something the locals call hurricane season. But here's the strange part. The native species, these humans, were outside during both visits. No protective gear, no shelters, just walking around normally. Velthar's confusion grew. What about Team Delta? "They landed in a region called Australia," Dr. Thess said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "They lasted 47 minutes before fleeing. Their report is mostly screaming. But they managed to document creatures they describe as impossibly venomous, unreasonably aggressive, and defying all known biological limitations." The display showed blurry images of various Earth animals, a simple spider, a snake, and what appeared to be a small furry creature with a flat tail. "The humans live alongside these creatures?" Velthar asked. "According to Team Delta, some humans keep them as pets." The team leader suffered a complete nervous breakdown trying to understand how any species could coexist with such monsters. Velthar scrolled through more reports. Team Beta had observed humans consuming what their chemical analyzers classified as mild toxins, apparently something called alcohol and spicy food. Team Epsilon reported witnessing humans deliberately exposing themselves to harmful radiation from their star, calling it sunbathing. Team Zeta documented humans jumping from perfectly safe elevated positions into water far below, apparently for enjoyment. "Sir," Dr. Thess continued, "I've cross-referenced the data with our galactic databases. Earth's gravity is 30% higher than the galactic standard. Their atmospheric composition includes oxygen at levels that would be toxic to 60% of known species. Their weather systems regularly produce wind speeds that could knock over most of our buildings. And the humans, they built cities directly in the paths of these weather systems. They call the dangerous zones prime real estate." Velthar leaned back in his chair, processing this information. In all his centuries of service, he had never encountered a species that seemed to thrive in conditions that would kill most galactic citizens. What about their technology? He asked. Primitive by our standards, but here's what's interesting. They don't seem to need advanced technology. Team Kappa observed humans traveling across vast distances, using only their biological capabilities. They call it hiking. Team Lambda watched humans intentionally enter frozen water for recreation. The translation came back as polar bear swimming. The president's tentacles curled thoughtfully. Have we received any communication from this planet? Actually, yes. They've sent several messages, expressing interest in peaceful contact. They seem quite friendly, which makes all of this even more confusing. Velthar made his decision. Dr. Thess, I believe we have found this year's winner for the most terrifying planet award. Sir, any species that can live normally in conditions that our best survey teams describe as nightmare scenarios clearly deserves recognition. Contact the diplomatic corps. We'll present the award in person. Are you sure that's safe? Velth smiled, an expression that looked quite unsettling on his alien features. If they're as dangerous as these reports suggest, it's better to stay on their good side. The emergency session at the United Nations headquarters in New York buzzed with nervous energy. Ambassador Jinho Kim sat at the long conference table, staring at the translated message that had arrived 3 hours ago. Around him, the hastily assembled First Contact Committee looked just as confused as he felt. Let me read this again, said Dr. Minji Park, adjusting her glasses as she held up the printed translation. We, the Galactic Conservation Council, are honored to present Earth with this year's Most Terrifying Planet Award. We wish to deliver this recognition in person as a gesture of diplomatic respect to your formidable species. Communications Director. Sunho Lee shook his head slowly. Formidable species. Terrifying planet. What exactly did we do wrong? Maybe it's a translation error, suggested Defense Secretary Chang. Perhaps they mean most interesting or most beautiful. Secretary General Rodriguez leaned forward. I've had our best linguists check the message 12 times. They specifically used their word for terrifying 17 times throughout the communication. There's no mistake. Ambassador Kim rubbed his temples. So aliens exist. They've been watching us, and their first impression is that we're scary. Apparently very scary, Dr. Park added, scrolling through her tablet. They're requesting permission to land at JFK Airport tomorrow, with what they call a full diplomatic protection detail and emergency medical support units. Meanwhile, 200,000 kilometers above Earth, the Galactic Diplomatic Vessel, Peaceful Intentions, drifted in high orbit. Captain Zormild stood on the bridge, his blue skin pale with worry as he studied the planet below. Navigation Officer Pipkin, confirm our readings, he ordered, his voice tight with concern. The young officer checked his instruments again. Sir, the planet shows extreme weather activity across 60% of its surface. Massive storm systems, temperature variations that would kill most species, and something the computer identifies as active tectonic movement, and the humans live down there willingly. According to our data, sir, they've built their largest cities directly on the most unstable areas. The place called San Francisco sits on what their own scientists call an earthquake zone. The city called Miami is regularly attacked by massive storm systems they call hurricanes, yet millions of humans choose to live there. Captain Zormild's tentacles curled with anxiety. What about their military capabilities? Security Chief Nexara approached with a data pad. Sir, our long-range scans show they possess weapons capable of destroying their entire planet several times over. Yet somehow, they haven't used them on each other in over 70 years. Incredible self-control for such a violent species, the captain muttered. There's more, Sir Nexara continued. We've detected humans regularly engaging in what can only be described as combat training. They call it sports. Millions gather to watch these training exercises. Some involve direct physical confrontation. Others test survival skills under extreme conditions. On the bridge's main screen, footage from Earth's television broadcasts played. The alien crew watched in fascination and horror as humans threw themselves down snowy mountains on thin boards, jumped from aircraft with only fabric to slow their fall, and engaged in ritualized combat inside enclosed rings while crowds cheered. "They do this for entertainment?" asked Pipkin, his voice barely a whisper. "It appears so," Captain Zormild replied. "And look at this footage from something called the Olympics. Humans competing to see who can survive the most extreme physical challenges. They seem to celebrate their strongest warriors." Back on Earth, the UN committee was trying to make sense of their own planet through alien eyes. "I've been thinking," said Dr. Park, "what if they're right? What if Earth really is terrifying compared to other planets?" Sunho Lee laughed. "Come on, Minji. We live here just fine. How bad could it be?" "Well," she said, pulling up some data on her laptop, "Earth's gravity is actually pretty strong compared to what we might expect on other worlds. Our weather can be pretty extreme. We have volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, ... Those are just natural disasters," Ambassador Kim said. "Every planet must have some problems, do they?" Dr. Park asked. "What if most planets are calmer? What if we're actually the weird ones?" The room fell silent as everyone considered this possibility. "There's something else," Dr. Park continued. "I've been reviewing what we know about our own biology. Humans can survive in environments from freezing cold to extreme heat. We can heal from injuries that would kill most Earth animals. We can run for hours without stopping. We can survive without food for weeks." "Your point?" asked Secretary General Rodriguez. "My point is, maybe we are pretty tough without realizing it." On the peaceful intentions, Captain Zormild was making final preparations for the diplomatic mission. "All crew members will wear full environmental protection suits," he announced over the ship's communication system. "The atmosphere contains oxygen at levels that could cause severe toxicity. The gravity will be crushing. The local pathogens are completely unknown." "Sir," asked Medical Officer Helvia, "what if the humans try to offer us their local food or beverages?" "Under no circumstances should anyone consume anything on that planet," the captain replied firmly. "Our intelligence suggests they regularly consume substances that would be classified as chemical weapons on most civilized worlds, and if they invite us to their recreational activities..." Captain Zormild shuddered. "Politely decline. We're going there to present an award, not to participate in their warrior training exercises." As both species prepared for their first official meeting, neither quite understood what the other expected. The United Nations General Assembly had never seen anything quite like this before. 3 alien beings stood at the front of the room, each enclosed in what looked like a combination of spacesuit and medical isolation chamber. Their bulky environmental suits hummed quietly with life support systems, and small lights blinked constantly across their chest panels. Ambassador Ginho Kim adjusted his tie one more time as he approached the podium. Behind him, the world's media captured every moment of humanity's first official contact with alien life. The irony was not lost on him that this historic moment centered around receiving an award for being scary. President Velthar's voice emerged from his suit's external speakers, the translation slightly mechanical but clear. "Honored citizens of Earth, we gather today to recognize an unprecedented achievement in galactic survival." Dr. Minji Park, sitting in the front row, leaned over to Communications Director Sunho Lee. "They make it sound like we won a war, distinguished humans," President Velthar continued, his tentacles moving inside his protective suit. "Your species has accomplished something we thought impossible. You have not only survived on one of the most hostile worlds ever documented, but you have thrived." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Kim glanced back at Secretary General Rodriguez, who looked just as puzzled as everyone else. Your planet, the alien president went on, experiences temperature variations that would kill most galactic species within hours. Your weather systems regularly produce wind speeds that could destroy our strongest buildings. Your ground literally moves and shakes, yet you build your greatest cities directly on these unstable areas. I think they're talking about earthquakes, whispered Defense Secretary Chang. Dr. Kyra Thess, the alien scientist, stepped forward with her own protective equipment gleaming under the assembly hall lights. Our survey teams documented conditions that exceed our worst-case scenario models. Corrosive precipitation that falls regularly from your sky. Rain, Dr. Park said quietly. They think rain is corrosive. Your star, Dr. Thess continued, bombards your planet with radiation levels that would require emergency evacuation on any civilized world. Yet humans deliberately expose themselves to this radiation. Our teams observed this behavior they call sunbathing. Several delegates in the assembly began to chuckle, but the alien seemed completely serious. Captain Zormild approached the microphone next, his suit making small beeping sounds as he moved. Perhaps most impressive of all is your species' resistance to chemical warfare. Our analysis shows that humans regularly consume substances that would be classified as toxins or weapons on most worlds. Sir, Ambassador Kim finally interrupted. Could you give us an example? Certainly. A compound you call alcohol that damages biological systems, yet you consume it socially. Crystalline substances you call salt that would dehydrate most species. Plant extracts so chemically active they trigger pain responses, yet you add them to food and call them spicy. The assembly hall erupted in surprised laughter. The aliens looked confused by this reaction. You find chemical consumption amusing? President Velthar asked. We find it normal, Ambassador Kim replied carefully. Normal. Dr. Thess's voice rose an octave. Our teams recorded humans consuming what you call coffee, a stimulant so powerful it would send most beings into cardiac arrest. Some humans consume multiple doses per day. How many cups of coffee did you have this morning, Jinho? Son, Lee whispered. 4. Kim whispered back, suddenly feeling like a superhuman. President Velthar raised one suited arm, holding a beautiful crystalline award that seemed to glow with its own light. Therefore, it is our honor to present Earth with this year's Most Terrifying Planet Award, recognizing your species' incredible adaptation to extreme survival conditions. As Ambassador Kim stepped forward to accept the award, President Velthar continued his speech. Your warriors regularly engage in activities that would be considered suicide missions on other worlds, jumping from great heights with only fabric to slow their descent, sliding down frozen mountains at deadly speeds, swimming in bodies of water containing predatory creatures. They're talking about skydiving and skiing, Dr. Park realized, and going to the beach. Your young undergo conditioning from birth, Captain Zormild added. Our teams observed human children being trained in extreme agility exercises on metal structures suspended above hard surfaces. Playgrounds, Secretary General Rodriguez said faintly. They think our playgrounds are military training facilities. The award felt surprisingly heavy in Ambassador Kim's hands. The crystal seemed to pulse with alien technology, and he could see his reflection multiplied dozens of times in its faceted surface. We are honored by this recognition, he said carefully, though I think there may be some misunderstanding about our daily lives. Misunderstanding? President Velthar asked. Our teams documented everything with scientific precision. Your species lives in conditions that would require our most advanced survival equipment. But, Kim tried to explain, these are just normal parts of living on Earth. The weather, the food, the activities, this is just how life is here. A long silence fell over the assembly hall. The aliens seemed to be processing this information. You mean, Dr. Thess said slowly, this level of environmental hostility is Standard for your species. Well, yes, Kim replied. Another silence, longer this time. Fascinating, President Velthar finally said. This makes you even more terrifying than we initially calculated. The award ceremony continued, but it was clear that both species were beginning to understand they lived in very different kinds of worlds. The next morning brought what the United Nations hoped would be a simple cultural exchange. The alien delegation, still sealed inside their environmental suits, had requested to observe normal human activities. Ambassador Jinho Kim led the group through Central Park, thinking a peaceful walk would help clear up any misunderstandings. Dr. Kyra Thess floated alongside them in her mobility pod, her instruments constantly scanning the environment. The atmospheric readings are off the charts, she reported to her colleagues. How do they survive breathing this mixture without protective equipment? Maybe their lungs are more advanced than we thought, Captain Zormild replied, his systems working overtime to filter what he considered toxic air. They paused near the playground where dozens of children were playing. The aliens watched in fascination as kids climbed on metal structures, swung from bars, and slid down steep slides. Incredible, President Velthar whispered. They begin military conditioning at such a young age. A small girl named Suman ran up to the group, curious about the strange visitors in their bulky suits. Are you robots? She asked innocently. Dr. Minji Park quickly stepped in. They're visitors from far away. Sumin, they need special clothes to stay healthy here. Why? Sumin asked, tilting her head. Before anyone could answer, Sumin grabbed the monkey bars and swung across effortlessly, her small hands gripping the metal bars as she moved from one to the next. Did you see that upper body strength? Dr. Thess gasped. The precision, the fearlessness. That child is already a trained warrior. Communications Director Sunho Lee tried to explain. She's just playing. All children do this. All of them. Captain Zormild asked in shock. Well, yes, it's fun. The aliens exchanged what seemed like worried glances through their helmet visors. Their next stop was near the park's running path, where morning joggers were making their daily rounds. The light drizzle that had started earlier didn't seem to bother. Anyone runners continued their routines in shorts and t-shirts. That's when they saw Daeho Choi, a regular jogger who ran the same route every morning. He passed by at an easy pace, breathing normally, despite what the aliens' instruments showed as mildly corrosive precipitation. Alert, alert. Dr. Thess's suit began beeping. Subject is exposed to chemical precipitation without protective gear. That's just rain, Dr. Park explained patiently. Rain. President Velthar's voice cracked through his translator. Your water falls from the sky as a mild acid. It's not acid. It's just ... water. The aliens watched Daeho disappear around a bend, still running steadily. His breathing rate barely increased. Captain Zormild noted. The cardiovascular conditioning of these humans is beyond anything in our databases. By lunchtime, the cultural exchange had moved to a food court in Manhattan. The aliens positioned themselves safely away from the dining area, their instruments scanning every meal that passed by. Tourist Haijin Song sat at a nearby table, enjoying a plate of Korean tteokbokki, spicy rice cakes and red sauce. She ate happily, occasionally fanning her mouth and reaching for her water glass. Chemical warfare training, Dr. Thess whispered urgently to her colleagues. Look at the subject's reaction, watering eyes, elevated body temperature, yet she continues, consuming the toxin. It's just spicy food, Sunho Lee said, though he was beginning to understand how strange human behavior must look to outsiders. Spicy? President Velthar asked. We add certain plants to food to make it taste ... exciting. You deliberately consume irritants for pleasure. Before anyone could answer, a nearby businessman ordered extra hot sauce for his sandwich. The aliens watched in horror as he doused his food with what their scanners registered as concentrated capsaicin, biological irritant. The tolerance levels are impossible, Captain Zormild muttered. Our medical database shows this compound should cause severe tissue damage. That afternoon, someone mentioned that humans had television shows dedicated to survival challenges. The aliens immediately requested to see examples of human training programs. Dr. Park reluctantly pulled up clips on her tablet. People rock climbing, surfing, and competing in obstacle races. The aliens watched in stunned silence. This is their entertainment, Dr. Thess asked weakly. Some of it, yes. They perform these death-defying acts. For fun? Well, when you put it that way. The final misunderstanding came when Communications Director Lee casually mentioned extreme sports. Some people like even more challenging activities: skydiving, mountain climbing, deep-sea diving. President Velthar's suit systems began alarm, beeping. You mean the activities we observed are the basic level? I guess you could say that. There are more extreme versions. Oh yes. Some people climb mountains without oxygen, dive to incredible depths, jump off bridges with elastic cords, ... The aliens fell completely silent. Through their helmet visors, the humans could see them looking at each other with what appeared to be growing panic. Captain, Dr. Thess said quietly, I think we need to revise our threat assessment. Agreed, Captain Zormild replied. If what we've observed today represents their children's play activities and casual entertainment, what must their actual military training look like? Ambassador Kim tried one more time to explain. Really? We're just normal people living normal lives. Normal. President Velthor's voice was barely a whisper. If this is normal for your species, then we have vastly underestimated the level of ... formidability that Earth represents. The cultural exchange continued. But it was becoming clear that every attempt to show humans as peaceful and ordinary was backfiring spectacularly. The final diplomatic dinner was held at Ararong, a cozy Korean restaurant in downtown Manhattan. The alien delegation sat awkwardly at a round table, their bulky environmental suits making it impossible for them to eat anything. The restaurant's warm lighting reflected off their helmet visors as they watched their human hosts enjoy the meal. Restaurant owner Kyung-ho Park had prepared his finest dishes for this historic occasion. Steam rose from bowls of kimchi. Jjigae bulgogi sizzled on tabletop grills, and banchan dishes covered every available space. The aliens' instruments beeped constantly as they detected what their systems classified as multiple chemical warfare agents in the food. This is quite an honor, Kyung-ho said cheerfully, refilling Ambassador Jin-ho Kim's water glass. First contact with aliens, and they chose my little restaurant. President Velthor watched nervously as the humans consumed dish after dish of what his scanners showed as increasingly dangerous substances. Ambassador Kim, are you certain it's safe to consume those red vegetable preparations? You mean the kimchi? Kim asked, taking another bite. Of course, it's fermented cabbage. Very healthy. Fermented. Dr. Kyrathes's voice rose in alarm. You're eating decomposed plant matter. Well, when you put it that way, ... double quotes. Communications Director Sun-Ho Lee laughed. I suppose it does sound weird. That's when 8-year-old Min-ho Park, Kyung-ho's son, wandered over from his homework table in the corner. His curiosity had been growing all evening as he watched the strange visitors in their big suits. Appa, he said to his father, why are they wearing those clothes? Are they sick? Kung-ho tried to shush his son, but Min-ho was already approaching the aliens with the fearless curiosity that only children possess. Are you hot in there? Min-ho asked President Velthor directly. Those suits look really heavy. Dr. Minji Park started to intervene, but Ambassador Kim held up a hand. Sometimes children could cut through diplomatic confusion better than adults. We wear protective equipment because your planet is very dangerous for our species, President Velthor explained patiently. Minho looked around the restaurant, then back at the alien. Dangerous. But it's just dinner time. Your atmosphere contains toxins that would harm us, Captain Zormild added. You mean air? Minho asked, taking a deep breath. But air is good for you. Watch. He demonstrated by breathing in and out dramatically. The aliens' instruments went crazy as they detected what they interpreted as a young human, deliberately exposing himself to atmospheric poison without any fear. Minho, his father called from behind the counter, "Don't bother our guests." But Minho had already reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wire cage. "Wanna see my hamster? His name is Balmy." Dr. Thess's scanner immediately began emergency beeping. The small golden hamster looked up at the aliens with bright black eyes, its tiny paws gripping the cage bars. "Fascinating," Dr. Thess whispered, studying her readings. "The creature's bone density is incredible for its size. Muscle fiber composition suggests it could survive impacts that would kill most galactic fauna. Its metabolic rate indicates it could adapt to almost any environment." "It's just a hamster," Minho said, opening the cage door. "He's really friendly. Want to hold him?" Before anyone could stop him, Minho gently lifted Balmy from the cage. The hamster sat calmly in the boy's small hands, whiskers twitching as it looked around the room. "The child is handling a creature that could theoretically survive on Classum worlds without protection," Captain Zormild said faintly. "And it appears, docile? Docile?" Minho giggled. "Balmy's not scary. He's just a pet." That's when the truth began to dawn on President Velthor. "Pet? You mean this creature lives with you voluntarily?" "Sure. He lives in my room. I feed him every day and clean his cage. You coexist peacefully with creatures that are biologically superior to most galactic species." "Biologically superior?" Sun Holi asked. "It's a hamster." Dr. Thess was staring at her scanner readings in disbelief. If their domestic animals have these capabilities, what does that say about the humans themselves? Chef Su Yang Han emerged from the kitchen carrying a fresh pot of kimchi jjigae. The spicy aroma filled the air, and the aliens' chemical detection systems immediately went into high alert. "More soup, anyone?" she asked cheerfully. "I made it extra spicy tonight, just the way Koreans like it." "Extra spicy," Dr. Thess whispered. "Oh yes," Chef Han said proudly. "I used my special gochugaru blend. It's got quite a kick." She ladled the bubbling red soup into bowls, and the humans began eating it without hesitation. Steam rose from each spoonful, and several people fanned their mouths, but they kept eating with obvious enjoyment. "They're consuming military-grade chemical irritants," Captain Zormild said weakly, and treating it as a pleasant social activity. Minho had returned to the aliens, still holding his hamster. "Are you from space?" he asked. "That's so cool. Is your planet fun?" "Fun?" President Velthor asked. "Yeah, like, do you have games and parks and stuff?" The alien president tried to explain. "Our world is very calm and peaceful. The temperature never changes much. The weather is always the same. There are no dangerous animals or plants." "That sounds boring," Minho said honestly. The silence that followed lasted almost a full minute. "Boring?" Dr. Thess finally asked. "Well, yeah. How do you have adventures? How do you play outside if nothing ever happens?" It was Navigator Pipkin who first understood. "Sir, I think we've made a fundamental error in our assessment." "What do you mean?" "What we interpreted as survival training and military conditioning. I think it's just how they live. For fun." The revelation hit all three aliens simultaneously,